there isn't any but overall efficacy wise they are all similar. So I think it depends on individual preference rather than one of them being more effective than the other.
So anyone differs or the same? I agree with you, Dr. Sanjay.
I also agree. It is more or less it is the same. Yeah, does not make a big difference. I agree.
Does not make a difference. So choose one of them. I know majority of us are familiar with leuprolide, but having said that, either of them is okay. For right sequence, we'll go to it. Many drugs, so we won't complete that question here. Any practice changing guideline in 2019 and 2020? So maybe not in detail, but in brief, anyone can take it. Vedant.
So I would recommend the 2000.
Bit about radiotherapy, maybe bit about systemic therapy, and bit about surgery in case you can club it.
Guidelines wise, I think if we are talking about guidelines, Kumar, then I think the usual set of guidelines are there, but I would want to highlight the Advanced Prostate Cancer Consensus Conference publication, European Urology, that was the 2019 meeting. That is a very comprehensive document about all the. It's mainly for advanced prostate cancer, not for early disease.
But do you want to put some salient features out of it?
It's quite vast, Kumar. I don't think we can justice.
So, Sanjay, anything relatively new in surgery in last 2 years?
I think if we were going through the different phases of it in the diagnostic setup, I think we have had a paradigm change. The first time in 2020 guidelines, we have got the inclusion of pre-biopsy MRI scan, whereas even 2019 we did not have inclusion. So now, even if we were following the guidelines, pre-biopsy MRI scan seems to be a baseline thing. That's one. Then the second is recently there was the pro-PSMA paper that was published, establishing with scientific evidence about the role of PSMA in high-risk prostate cancer. If you were looking at guidelines, I think the role of abiraterone and enzalutamide is much more established, and the enzalutamide is also being used in the hormone-sensitive prostate cancer setting.
Okay, so these are some salient features, some relatively new thing which has come up.
And even I would say the MP MRI has been taken as a diagnostic investigations. MRI and trust guided biopsy has also got a lot of weightage in 2020. Probably that would have more weightage. So,
can we take the case because there's been people want.
That's more rational. That would be better. Yeah, that's a good choice.
Okay, sir, you want us to go to the case? Well,
yeah.
Because I thought maybe people want to have the question.
To the program.
This is a regular case. Elderly person having a lower UTI symptoms, seen by urologist. Had a nodule. They examined. Finally, it was found to be T3, PSA around 27 nanogram per ml. MRI had a lesion on the right and left lobe towards the periphery and also involving the central zone. And extra prostate extension was there. There were no nodes. PSMA PET was done, and rest were normal. Impression was T3N0M0. Any other investigations to be done, or is it good enough? Dr. Kashyapi.
We have a biopsy.
At this moment, no.
Yes, we need a biopsy.
Okay, sir. Anything else?
We have a PSMA PET CT, we have an MRI, we have a physical examination. I think that's more than enough. We need a biopsy.
Before going ahead with your treatment, am I right? How does it help you, sir?
Biopsy is important to know what is the Gleason score, how many cores are involved, the volume of the disease. Clinically, it appears an advanced disease, but biopsy is definitely a basis for knowing many things.
Prognosis even, yeah.
Okay, and how is that, sir? If you're going ahead with surgery in case?
No, we need a biopsy before we do anything.
Okay.
Any radical surgery, yeah.
Yes.
before any radical surgery. So,
Yeah.
so the biopsy done. That was
So Dr. Kumar, can I just ask you this question? I
Go
mean,
ahead,
you
Ganesh.
pointed out with that biopsy and you paused there. So
Yes.
do you
Definitely.
feel supported by PSMA showing SUV of 23 max that biopsy can be in future stopped? I don't think so. I mean, your opinion,
So I was thinking, in case you're planning for surgery in this setting,
right?
I know, do you definitely always require? And that was the I wanted to have that discussion here. So I
100% in every case. I think there are no second thoughts. No second thoughts.
great.
We will require, because even in surgery many things will change. I mean, where is the core of
Yeah,
biopsy? Which
Gleason
side is positive?
six
I
would
don't
be
want to do a
different.
nerve sparing on that side.
Yeah.
Maybe 100 things
Yeah.
like that. I mean, just will go ahead. Sorry for the interruption.
Go ahead. That is good to enumerate. I kept hearing this. Ganesh or Dr. Raghunath, I just kept
It's for that thing only.
How
Dr.
this
Shrenik will say, I
biopsy
think.
helps
He was
in,
saying that.
Surgical management.
The
That will be
volume of the gland also.
volume is MRI.
Yeah, volume can be calculated by MRI, but from the biopsy course, which side, which is the Gleason score, I subgrade group. So one side we may want to do a nerve sparing, we may not want to do a nerve sparing, and an index lesion. Some things will go on importance, I think.
Okay. So you do get those subtle, information which does help, and I agree with you in principle. Usually, Dr. Raghunath, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, apart from all these things discussed, sometimes very rarely, these 4+5 or 5+5, when we get IHC done, neuroendocrine tumors can be done.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
In such cases, probably we may combine chemotherapy before planning, surgery.
I agree with you, sir. This was just to stimulate the discussion. I agree. You can have, and that's one of the very major issues that in case you have a histopathology which is not typical, then you get concerned and you.
Biopsy is mandatory.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
So malignancy, by and large, you want to see that cancer cell is there before you want to start treatment. So this was the biopsy done, and these were the reports. Patient had all the discussion, and here, for whatever reason, patient chose to take radiotherapy-based treatment, and patient received the radiotherapy, and the hormonal therapy for this disease. Anyone wants to comment on it? Having the selection of one treatment over other, maybe one by Dr. Vedang and one by one of our surgical colleagues, Vedang. T3, so this is like a ideal case for all. Not audible, Vedang.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it will take all day to have that discussion. Raghu is
No, take only 2 minutes, not more than that, Vedang. The same way the way you do in the JC. I don't see in JC you take it to the side.
So it doesn't seem that there was any contraindication for this patient to receive radiotherapy. So I think it's fine to go on ahead with that.
Same way, Dr. Raghunath, any comment for choosing surgery and the issues with choosing one over other? Just because we have many students on the in the webinar, and not like Vedang full day. Vedang takes only 2 minutes in the JC.
Yeah, Vedang is right, but it is not just surgery or radiotherapy. It is not doctor's choice as well. It is always you should involve the patient, what patient wants. Okay, so we should have a debate. We should have a discussion, probably in the tumor board. What are the outcomes of surgery versus outcomes of hormone therapy and radiotherapy? This should be debated in front of the patient. So we should leave the choice to the patient as well after discussing. So if the life expectancy is more than 8 to 10 years, probably the option of surgery, hormone therapy and radiotherapy to be discussed in front of the patient. I will discuss that.
But Raghu, do you think in this case, looking at the high grade, and if you want to enter surgery, could be probably the best choice, because if you give RT and then if you have to go again, that would be almost impossible. So probably the first juncture, if we can enter with surgery, there is nothing like that.
Yeah, we should,
because it is still localized. Yeah, this is still localized here.
Okay, so we do get some salient reasons why one will choose over other, and as told by Dr. Raghunath, it's ultimately the patient choice, what they make, and then finally we deliver. We know that survival is similar in this setting, but there are certain differences. Next, after the treatment, patient had some PSA level, and here I want the comment: if we choose one treatment over other, does it matter what is the NADL PSA we achieve? Dr. Kashyapi or Dr. Raval?
Yes, it matters. If you choose surgery as a primary therapy, the NADIR PSA should reach close to zero. While if you choose radiation as a primary therapy, the NADIR PSA may not reach zero because the residual prostate is there. Moreover, the NADIR PSA may take 1.5 to 2 years to reach. So that has to be understood.
I would just like to add there, sir. The radiation is generally always given with the ADT. So when it was not given in with ADT, that was a different. But with ADT, the NADIR PSA becomes almost undetectable. But it's a very important point that I tell my residents also. If the patient's NADIR does not fall enough on the ADT, especially if it doesn't fall below 1, that is clearly a poorer prognostic sign, and there is poorer outcome in such patients. So in fact, I probably will take that up later, but it's better to add maybe even MAB. This is not completely evidence based, but in my practice, what we do, we add bicalutamide, and that brings down the PSA further. And so this is one of the important prognostic factors after radiotherapy, fall of PSA.
Okay.
Vedant, the last comment, any evidence for that, adding the bicalutamide?
No, so we have been discussing now whether in such patients we should actually add abiraterone in locally advanced patients, because that brings down the PSA much better than ADT alone, and there is evidence from Stampede that even for locally advanced one can use abiraterone.
But I do agree in general the comment that there is a bit of a difference, and with surgery PSA does we do look for PSA becoming by and large zero. With radiotherapy, some value remains, and becoming zero, it becomes not always achievable. That is a subtle difference we need to remember. Next is Vedant, how long is hormonal therapy? A new adjuvant, we know. Subsequently, do you decide based on some parameter, or all of them you give subsequently? And if you give them 1 year, 2 year, 3 year?
All patients with high risk node negative disease like this guy receive about between 2 to 3 years of ADT in total.
Okay. Is this like in other patients? How do you choose?
In intermediate risk, it is but between 3 to 6 months, and in low risk and favorable intermediate risk, no ADT is used.
So again, a small and
favorable intermediate risk ADT.
So again, a small but important difference that in which situation you give radiotherapy.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
To give radiotherapy or to give hormonal therapy or not, and if you give, how long you give them. Subsequently, patient was on follow-up, and patient after a few months, that was almost when the PSA, they completed the treatment, that is after 3 months, and then after around 6 to 8 months, PSMA PET done, and because the patient had some symptoms, and the patient had the PSA which was rising, and PSA in October 2019 had become 2.1. Does it worry us, or we should have waited in this situation? Anyone can take it? Dr. Kashyapi?
This PSA is rising too early, I would say. So it's a concern.
It's a concern. Vedant, same?
Yeah, clearly. I mean, yeah.
And that's the reason the PSMA PET was done, and what was found that yes, there is a prostate locally enlarged, which is bigger and involving.
I have one small question, Kumar. If Vedang, in case where we see 4+5, 9, are such responses seen? or can be seen?
What kind of? I mean, the PSA.
I mean, the Gleason score was quite high. I mean, the disease is aggressive. That's why I asked, are such responses seen? Because many of us, you are the only radiation oncologist
So you
in
mean
the panel.
poor response?
Yeah. Is the Gleason score would be one of the cause
Yes.
for that? And is this kind of scenario seen? I mean,
I think this really indicates such a poor response and such quick rise of PSA. Probably
so bad disease.
we have missed metastatic disease. The rise of PSA is pretty quick.
So I can
Okay.
put a question in a bit. So if the Gleason is high in a T3 tumor, and maybe Ganesh and Vedant both can comment, or someone else also can pitch in.
Right.
Will you decide one treatment over other from your side? Yes, patient chose something.
So
And-
in
and
choosing
Ganesh,
for
was I-
surgery,
have I
for
paraphrased the
surgery.
question right?
Yeah, you are right. So in surgery, there are certain old publications which do say, like there is a 2010 publication which says that if there is only PSA high as a factor for high risk localized or locally advanced localized CA prostate, then that is a good factor to go for surgery. And if you see D'Amico's three factors, staging, clinical staging, PSA, and the Gleason score. So PSA as the single factor is better. Two factors are better than three, and three is the worst outcome. So you can select that way surgically, apart from all other ECOG and age and all other factors. So this is one selection kind of thing, which is there in literature.
Vedang, any comment?
So on its own, the PSA, so the Gleason being 9 does not, in my books, put the patient in one or the other. On its own, the Gleason. I think.
So Vedang, it may be also a possibility that since we don't have a radical prostate specimen, this is a 12-core biopsy, a 16-core would have picked up 5 + 5, 10 somewhere.
Possible, and in that case, I think.
I don't know, Kumar. I'm just adding on to why this happened.
It's important. Ganesh, I deliberately brought this issue because these are those subtle things which you want to pass on the message that you know what happens to this patient, and then we choose one of those treatments. So perfectly fine, Ganesh. These are very valid comments.
Yep.
So again, for everyone, that these are some nuanced,
Just to add some information, there is a very large data from the US of multi-centric collaboration of only looking at Gleason 9 and 10, over 1,000 patients that have only looked at Gleason 9 and 10 treated with radical radiotherapy. So the outcomes are not at all, they're what expected. And just for information, we are also looking at a multi-center Indian pooled data for Gleason 9 and 10. So hopefully that should come in the next 6 months, 1 year. We'll probably have nearly 500 patients of Gleason 9 and 10.
That will be great.
Thank you, Vedang. And now you had a disease. Now we have external iliac lymph node, common iliac lymph node, METs to right iliac plate, left inferior pubic ramus, and left femur head lesion. At this moment, any more investigation, Dr. Ganesh?
So most of the important things which we want to have are already there with the PSMA PET scan. But apart from some routine investigations, ALP and maybe 72 age with some comorbidities, diabetic investigations, and maybe a bone mineral density I can do just to be having a cautionary attitude. I don't know any other specific investigation for CA prostate. I don't think so. Maybe I can just talk with the pathologist and tell him that you can just confirm the 4 + 5 9 because the disease progressed in a short span.
The other thing to look at would be whether it's catching the ureters. It's a locally advanced disease going up to the levators on a PSMA PET. It could
Absolutely.
be catching the bladder base and the ureters also. So you need to check at the creatinine and the upper tracts.
Okay. And that's also useful for your future planning of the treatment. Any
Yes.
one who's a proponent for repeat biopsy?
I don't think so.
No one. Okay.
Dr. Kumar, is there any place for liquid biopsy here, which I was talking about in the beginning?
Not here, sir. In future, I'll come to that. I'll come not here, sir. I agree with you. We wish because one of the aspects we want to know that is there a histological progression, means that has the histology changed, and we want to know. But unfortunately, at this moment, liquid biopsy doesn't help.
Anybody would like to see the primary specimen for any driver mutation? Since the new things are coming.
Very important question. Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, sir, this is from the beginning. It was locally advanced prostate cancer.
Yeah.
So if you go by NCCN, that time also what you say could have been done. I think Kumar also agrees with that. And metastatic prostate cancer, yeah, obviously we can do it with the baseline biopsy. That is what probably, or I don't know, a germline mutation.
Yes.
So that was a very important comment, and I think so. Maybe I'll sum it up here. Anyone wants to come in and wants to comment on this? Dr. Abhay or anyone? So,
Kumar, can I just add to that? Is there any place for FDG PET?
FDG PET.
FDG.
Beyond this, Ganesh.
But I think unless there is a straightforward some indication of a neuroendocrine or then a chromogranin or some marker positive, I don't think we should then go for a FDG PET. And we'll have those particular scenarios with disease which is fulminant blood PSA levels which are absolutely contrary.
PSA not rising and you have fulminant disease, that is scenario where we know that the FDG PET may be useful.
Suspicion for neuroendocrine is low here, so FDG PET may not help in this.
Yes, and again, the neuroendocrine is low grade, it becomes, I agree with it doesn't pick. Then again, you have to do DOTA, again, that becomes a separate PET scan. So, coming to the molecular test, it was a very important comment and by everyone that as per NCCN for locally advanced and advanced cancer, it is important that we do BRCA-NEST. And what it does importantly to find out is there a familial tendency for this tumor or not, and where germline is very important. You can get from somatic also. Is there a chance of having a patient having a disease which is familial? That is one part. Second, in future it helps you in deciding your treatment because that BRCA-NEST helps you in deciding which drug to give in future. That is in advanced stage and subsequent stages of the treatment. Apart from that, you do have in today's time MSI, TMB, and anti-RK, where the drug is available. But I again repeat, in this situation, no. Maybe you will like all those. You can do it and keep it. It is useful for you. Apart from for familiar tendency, sure, it is important to do it at this time or maybe earlier. It will be useful for the family and the patient. But don't forget that counseling part. Without counseling, please don't do it. Otherwise, it is a big mess. Then the patient and the doctor both goes through a lot of harassment. That is for familial tendency. For treatment part, you can do it now, but it will be useful for your treatment in maybe next or next to next line of therapy. Going to the impression being metastatic castrate-sensitive prostate cancer. Sir, this is something which is coming up a lot. Dr. Kashyapi, is it a oligometastatic disease?
I could call it yes or no because this is a.
I don't want only yes or no, sir.
I'll explain. See,
One
this is
yes or no, and second is
no. The definitions of oligometastatic earlier were based on the CT scan and the bone scan. The PSMA PET scan is a newer investigation. It will obviously pick up new lesions. He has nodal disease. He has about 4 bony lesions, multiple nodes. I am not very inclined to call it as an oligometastatic disease.
Okay. Anyone else wants to take it? If it was upfront, sir, think about it came after treatment. Think about it came upfront to you. PSMA PET was done without any treatment. Then what would happen in your opinion? I know in here we know the bit of a biology, so we are all concerned. But think about 60-year-old coming with this disease, absolutely fit, PS1 in the clinic.
Kumar, can I just add here?
Yes, sir.
I always felt that the oligometastasis or something is a naive treatment, naive diagnosis. And this is more or less relapse, which is a progression. So it's too early for us to put this as an oligometastasis or something.
Yeah, he has already received 2 modality of treatment.
Exactly.
But upfront, sir?
Yeah,
Upfront, yes. Upfront, yes.
Okay, then that's a very good comment. And then, yes, sir. Coming to about the treatment, if it was oligometastatic disease, can we have comments from all of you how you will take it forward? Dr. Ganesh, maybe I'll start with you.
Okay.
Which first, which second, which third?
I mean, for oligometastatic disease, I didn't get the question. Sorry.
Think about this disease came at upfront. We discussed and we thought this is a oligometastatic disease, treatment naive, 60-year-old fit patient.
Okay, then what probably I would suggest is you start the conventional therapy of metastatic prostate cancer as of today, because the data of oligometastatic which has come was with only ADT. But since it is a purely metastatic disease, probably I think this is my thoughts that we should apply today's treatment of metastatic prostate cancer, see for a response at 3 months, probably see that the response is a sustained response, and with a PSMA PET scan, which is again a very good investigation for a reassessment here, we can see the SUV change or SUV vanishing. If we kind of add something like ADT plus abiraterone acetate, then probably there are reports where there are benefit with such a kind of presentation, and the disease goes really low, and then at maybe 6 months you can really treat it, and in today's time with support of literature you can treat it with a radiation.
Okay. Any role of surgery at the for prostate?
It's only in the trial, not
the trial.
per se. If they sit there in
One
the
can
trial.
take Dr. Sanjay, Vedant,
Kumar,
same, Dr. Raghunath.
there is a term called oligorecurrent prostate cancer.
Yes.
So, after primary treatment to the prostate, either surgery or even radiotherapy,
Yeah.
even the recurrent. If, example, if primary is stable, meaning to say if there is no recurrence in the prostate, if there are no lymph nodes, the recurrence is only present in the bones. In such cases, treatment is metastasis-directed therapy option is always there. So, oligorecurrent prostate cancer itself is a separate entity. We should keep that in mind.
So I'll sum it up here. Oligometastatic disease, we need to remember there are multiple forms. One is the baseline. Second is you have given some treatment, then the disease has increased. Third, that in metastatic disease you are giving a systemic therapy, and then you have an increase in disease in only one or two places. So you have a 3 situations, and 3 situations will have a different kind of responses to treat, and that is what we heard from our panel for oligometastatic disease for those approaches. No one for certain knows this is the only way to disease to treat them, but what we do know that it is important that choose the right one to have curative treatment for them in this setting. Coming to if this is a run-of-the-mill metastatic disease, what treatment and what combination? Maybe Dr. Sanjay.
Sanjay has left. Maybe
He's
Sanjay
left.
can
Left, yeah.
Left, maybe Dr. Rawal sir. So,
Yeah, this is always combination therapy is better than the layered therapy. There are a lot of evidences. Nowadays, there is evidence of abiraterone or enzalutamide both. I probably will go for ADT with abiraterone, since after abiraterone you can still give the enzalutamide and is effective even after abiraterone. If you give enzalutamide first, then AB may not work at all.
Dr. Raghunath, similar view or anything different?
No, my question is any particular ADT you want me to answer?
Yes, and maybe you can put a bit surgical and medical also.
This patient does not have any history of cardiovascular or cerebrovascular events. If these 2 events are there, either cardiovascular or cerebrovascular, probably my preference would be antagonist over agonist.
Okay.
So otherwise, if these are not there, probably I would choose any antagonist or agonist, depends on patient's financial condition. If severe pain is there, probably I would prefer antagonist over agonist.
Surgical versus medical?
Almost there are no prospective studies, but whatever limited data is there, when it comes to FSH suppression, antagonists are superior to even bilateral archiectomy in terms of reducing the testosterone levels as well as controlling the FSH levels. But data is very limited and it is not a prospective data.
So what we heard, choose ATD, one of them, whichever you choose, surgical, medical, and antagonist and partial agonist has a place in different situations. A combination, better to give a combination, Next is for Dr. Abhay. When do you assess the response and how do you do it?
Why is not there, I think.
Abhay is not there. I did see his. Dr. Rawal sir.
Yeah, assess response, I think doesn't change. We after 3 months we would like to see the patient, and first we'll see the PSA response. If the PSA is okay and patient is not having symptoms, the second is symptom, and third is of course imaging. You can do like PSMA PET, but we generally avoid every 3 months doing PSMA PET if the patient's PSA is falling and he has no complaints.
So, thank you, sir. And then, in case for Vedant, at 6 months, PSA came down to 1.7. PSMA PET shows PSMA prostate and only right iliac node, and which I said post treatment now it becomes oligometastatic disease. Any different plan or plans remain the same, Vedant?
So this is post-treatment oligo-recurrent disease with 2 or 3 of one can argue how you count them. Limited bony metastasis, and PSA after 6 months PSMA has shown only one area, isn't it? Prostate and one bone. So this is a very, very typical scenario in the clinic. We often see this, and we generally scan at around 6 months only, the PSMA PET scan. There are at least one or two trials that have looked at this, but they have compared giving no ADT versus giving ADT and RT. So anyway, the short of it is, I would like to treat these areas of prostate and certainly that bony area that was showing uptake on the PSMA PET, and the PSA is down but it is not fully down. So I think I would err on the side of treating this with radiotherapy. The real quandary comes is whether to treat only that what is showing the uptake, or you go after all the bone 3 METs that were positive initially. I would like to ideally treat all the 3 because there is some data from a trial called Oriole that if you do not treat these PSMA based lesions with radiotherapy, there's almost 50% of them progress. But if you treat them, only about 15 or 10 to 15% of them progress. So, so this is what it is. But it's difficult often.
It's a phase 2 trial Vedant is going on, isn't it, or it is completed?
It's published, sir. Oriole is published. It's a small trial, 57, 58 patients.
Okay, there's another trial which is phase 2. Yeah.
That is called STORM. That was STORM.
I have a question for Vedant.
Yes.
He's already had a radiation to the prostate in nearly 78 grays. Do you want to radiate the prostate again? I can understand the bony lesions, either one or all the 3.
Correct. So if this was if this is an upfront scenario, then we would do that. But in the re-radiation scenario, we would only go after the bone.
This is the re-radiation scenario.
Yes. So in the re-radiation scenario, if the gap between the previous RT and now is certainly more than 3 or 4 years, re-irradiation of the prostate either with brachytherapy or with very, very precise SBRT or CyberKnife-like treatment can be considered.
This is about 5 years. If you look at it, 2015 we started, we are into 2020.
Correct. This is why I said there are a number of reports that have actually tested re-irradiation that it can be safe after 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Okay. This was a nice comment, and idea is that if you want to keep it simple, don't do anything. But yes, in our clinic we do complicate things because there are new information which keeps coming, and these discussions becomes important. What was shared earlier, Dr. Ganesh, for the students, the dose of these drugs, just so that they and when do we administer?
Then there are 2 strengths available, and I think the European has been using 11.25, but America and we follow using 22.5 6 monthly, and consider that gives a sort of a little better ADT. But the various preparations are intramuscular or subcutaneous, and if I am going to comment on the abiraterone acetate, then the dose which is by the original prescription basis is 1000 milligrams per day. that is either 250 4 tablets or 500 2 tablets, and then they have to be taken 1 hour before a meal or 2 hours after a meal on empty stomach. There has been some small report of 250 milligrams on a fatty meal, but let us not debate about it. The classical drug leaflet information says 1000 milligram and at empty stomach. So there can be dose adjustments in some minimal liver impairments or something, but otherwise it's 1000 milligram. And abiraterone has to be given with prednisolone. Now looking at the next question, I'll keep quiet.
Kumar has to answer.
Go ahead, Kumar.
Over to Kumar. Here is gone.
कुमार की लिंक टूट गई है.
Link to today.
I think we should
दिख नहीं रहा.
रुकना तो पड़ेगा. सूत्रधार तो डॉक्टर कुमार.
प्रिंसिपल ही भाग गया.
He's got scared of the question. Well, I think we should now conclude the session because.
Okay, sir.
I think because time is running out and admin are asking me to now. Please.
Yeah. No, but it was good session, sir. Absolutely. Okay.
Let's hear Dr. Sood.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us hear him.
Yeah.
Now, with the permission, I do not know what to do. Can I just go ahead and now stop?
Yeah. You asked Dr. Surya to probably proceed. Yeah.
Well, great session, and I'm sure we are thankful to Dr. Kumar Prabhat for making a very useful presentation, and of course putting the questions and the discussion taking forward. Now, we have now last presentation by Dr. Rajiv Sood, none other than himself as a person. All talking about for last 1 hour or so on COVID and COVID. The man who has gone through that. Now, as far Dr. Sood really does not need any introduction, but suffice it to say that he has been BC awardee. He has been past president of Urological Society of India and several other academic institutions, and currently head of the Department of Urology Transplant, Dean ABIVM, and many things to go. But without taking too much time, I would request now Dr. Sood to really talk to us. We are all eagerly waiting for you to tell us how did you manage to go through this COVID. Apparently, I was told it was the whole family also suffered. And how did you manage to do that? You are really truly a COVID warrior, and we wish you all the best. We're looking forward to hear from you. Dr. Sood, please.